Am I actually growing and transforming, or is it just perimenopause? This is a question I've been asking myself, and I do not think I'm the only woman asking myself this as we grow, do our shadow work, have spiritual awakenings, our personal development, all that. And in this video, I'm just going to share some of the debate I've been having in my own head and share some tarot cards that I pulled for anybody in this situation right now that I think bring really interesting insights to this argument and this kind of debate right now. So let's dive in. So the reason I wanted to do this video is that over the years, I've done a lot of healing. I've done a lot of shadow work. I've done a lot of personal development, personal growth, and I'm super proud of myself. I have noticed the changes. I have seen how I am saying no more often. I set boundaries. I don't feel like I'm as much of a people pleaser. I let my emotions come out. I let anger come out, even though, that's something that I was taught younger not to show so much. And now I'm able to express it more. I'm not perfect at this yet, but I've definitely seen a change. And for that, I am so proud of myself and all the work I've done. But then recently I was talking to a friend and she was saying maybe it could also be hormones because she's been seeing some of these changes in herself and people around herself. And then we started looking into it. And for sure, I'm 44 and I think I'm going through perimenopause. And at those times, you're at those moments, your hormones start to fluctuate and they change. And some of the hormones changing are definitely ones that are people pleaser ones. Like, for example, I read somewhere that for sure, since in a way we're no longer needing to reproduce, we're no longer to be seen as these people who are so helpful or need to be accepted by the group. We do have this more like what the fuck energy and not giving a shit anymore, and it can be so empowering. But for some reason, when she told me that it was my hormones, I don't know, I felt annoyed. I felt as if like it was like taking away from some of the work, the personal work I've been doing on my own. And similarly, recently, I just went through a big PMS period when like I had a huge down, and I was just really going through some old spirals. And then I remembered that like it'd been maybe about 2 months that my vitamin B6 had run out and that I hadn't been taking that for a while. And that so then I read online that, for example, B6 really helps with your mood swings and like your PMS and like being more happy and less having the downs. And again, like recently, I've just been so proud of myself because I feel like I got out of this huge depression and I was like, wow, I'm really happy with the work I've been doing on myself. And I really feel like it's paying off. And then I was like, well, gosh, is it just because of my vitamins? So these two things, the hormones and the vitamins, really got me thinking. And it also just made me think like, well, okay, so how much of our changes and our growth is due to the work we put in, and how much is it just our body and like the need for, hormones changing or vitamins or things like that. And actually it reminds me of this podcast I listened on, This American Life, that was talking about testosterone. And it was talking about how this one man for 3 months had no more testosterone. And during that time, that person became super sensitive, super compassionate, super, just a lot more kind of like emotional, letting the emotions come out. And that too really kind of messed with my head a bit. And I was like, well, who am I? Because I feel like I'm a very emotional and compassionate person. But is that really me? Or is it my hormones? Is it because I just don't have very much testosterone? So anyway, this got me thinking, and it really started making me kind of feel strange about maybe some of the work I've been doing. And I don't think I'm the only one because I think it's a mix. And so I pulled some tarot cards on this question for anybody going through this situation. So the first question I asked was, why does it upset me to think that maybe my hormones or my vitamins or all these things are having an effect on my growth and my spiritual awakening and the way I see things or my boundaries or how I'm able to express myself? And for that, we got the Five of Cups. And the Five of Cups in the traditional deck actually shows somebody looking at 3 spilled cups and 2 cups behind that are still there. And this card often talks about grief and loss and looking at what is kind of like what you're missing. And I actually personally realized that maybe there is a little bit of grief and loss here for me with regards to menopause. The idea of losing something or changing something, as much as for sure I've been hearing that it is this like portal for a place that we become more ourselves and that we can become, you know, more in tune with ourselves, letting the real person out. I love that idea, but there is still something that scares me in the change, and the idea of the loss of not being able to reproduce anymore. It's still something that's heavy for me. I haven't fully processed it, let's say. So I definitely think that there is some heaviness and grief there. And also the idea, maybe, because this card is answering, why does it upset me that my hormones are having such an effect? I guess it's also just because I feel like there is that loss of maybe the control or being able to say, well, this is what I've done, and feel as if I'm kind of like just, a whims to my hormones. But what I love about this particular card in this deck is that this cat is looking at all 5 cups with curiosity. And I think that, for example, it's interesting, maybe it's looking at the transformation that's happening and the growth and this new person that it's becoming, noticing that there's a lot of different factors that are included in that. Like, for example, maybe 1 cup is the hormones, and 1 cup is all the work I've been doing, the shadow work, and maybe 1 cup is therapy, and 1 cup is something else. And that in a way, it's looking at how they all blend together and how it's not just one thing that is responsible for your change, and that it's okay to see them all together. Maybe it's the mix of how they all mix together when you take all the different elements, because if you look, each cup has a different element in it. And I also think it's really interesting for me to remember that in a way I am an embodied person. If I chose to come on earth in this embodied form, it's also to have bodily elements influence me. And that is part of, I'd say, the experience here on earth. And so not to dismiss that part, because sometimes I do find that when we're working on our inner world and our spiritual worlds and all that, we kind of forget the body. We forget that we're here in a body doing that work. And so the body can also contribute. That's for me. So I think that that is a really useful card to help understand what is going on there. Then it's when the second card came up, it's such a cute card. This card is for how can we let both of these things, or maybe 5 different things, be true at the same time? How can we let the different things influencing our growth and our kind of development and our healing all be true at the same time? And we got strength, which is such a beautiful and sweet card here. I almost cried when I saw it, because in a way, it's that transformation that we're having. Who is this person that we are becoming? Is it, and it's almost like this huge transformation. It's almost a magical transformation of a cat becoming a lion, this huge, powerful being. And what I'm getting from this card, though, is that strength is often about gentle compassion and kind of like getting there with gentleness and not brute force. You can't force the transformation, and you can't force the way that it's going to happen. And what I'm getting here is, how can we let everything be true at the same time? It's to be soft and compassionate towards the emotions. So for me to just be aware that, like, the idea that my hormones or the vitamins influence me so much is annoying, but to be gentle and compassionate about it, not to force myself to say, well, that's weird that you think that way, just to let it be. But I also think that there's another clue here, which is, in a way, the best way to let them all be is not to concentrate on how you're going to transform, but concentrate on who you're going to be when you transform. Who is this person that you want to be? In a way, it doesn't matter how you get there, right? If you concentrate on how you're going to get there, it's almost like you're trying to figure out, or try too much to figure out how to make it work. But if you concentrate on who you are, when you're going to be there, that's what's important. And that is what, in a way, instead of thinking how you're going to get there, think about who you want to be. So to journal on, who is this person? Who is this person that you want to be when you are healed and you've grown? Visualize that. Spend your energy on that instead of how. And the third card I picked was a message of love and encouragement during this time, because it isn't easy to change. As I mentioned for myself, as much as I'm excited too about change, change can also be hard. There is an element of loss and kind of sadness there that we can feel sometimes. Maybe you don't, I do sometimes. So what I got for that was the 5 of Wands, a beautiful message of love and encouragement for this transformation. And what I'm getting here is the 5 of Wands is actually usually talks about kind of conflicting energies, right? Pulling us in different directions. And maybe it's all those conflicting things, or not necessarily even conflicting. I'm seeing them as conflicting, seeing as if they're going against each other, but they're working together. And this card often talks about kind of feeling pulled in different directions, but not having each part be enemies of each other. And what I absolutely love about this card is how the thorns become these beautiful flowers. The thorns that we go through, or the things that maybe we find difficult, the challenges that we have while we're transforming, can actually then become these beautiful blossoming flowers. And so as we go through the transformation and the changes, it's not always easy, and it sometimes hurts because we got these thorns in our little paw, but then they become the beauty that then we maybe use when we become that beautiful lion inside. And what I also love is that there's the 2 5s on each side, and it's almost like they're bookending the reading. And 5s in tarot have to do with conflict and kind of chaos. Both of these cards definitely had conflict and chaos in them, but the 5s are actually at the middle of the journey. And because the 10 is the end of the cycle of the numbers. And there's also, it's about dynamic and dramatic change. And so it's almost like reminding us that change is unavoidable. And at the same time, it's inviting us into that change to propel us, because there is a big change happening here. This is not just a small little change that we're going through. It's pretty big, and it's powerful, and it's scary, and it's a little bit of unknown. But it's also just a reminder with these 2 5s here, is that there's just so much kind of potential growth there if we can let it happen. So on this, I'm wishing you lots of love and lots of laughter as you learn to maybe incorporate your body into your transformation, your hormones, your vitamins, all this. It's not separate. We're not just a body and then our mind or our spirit kind of doing the work. It's all together. That's what I'm taking from this and this reading. And I hope that it'll bring you some peace too as you go through this huge transformation of who is that lion. Remember, focus on the lion, focus a little less on how you're getting there. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next video.